Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. What the heck is going on here? I mean, with all of the SEC actions recently in the world of crypto, dropping multiple investigations, dropping lawsuits, recently the biggest one, of course, the Coinbase lawsuit. That's kind of a big deal. Happy to see that, but what gives with the Ripple situation? What's going on there with XRP? Why is it that all of that has occurred and the SEC seems to actually be pro-crypto now that Trump is president? Why is that the case, but this appeal persists? Well, in a nutshell, as I've discussed many times recently, it certainly is the case that there are more complexities regarding the situation with the SEC and Ripple, but this thing's got to end at some point, or if the very unlikely happens, it's going to proceed. The appeal would proceed. Now, I don't believe there's any reasonable chance at all. I think there's about a 0% chance that happens, but still there's a question of what is actually going on here. So two things in this video on this matter. There's this headline from the Crypto Basic: Ripple v. SEC. Expert denies rumor of SEC considering dismissal of Ripple appeal. Wait a minute, so it's going to persist? Well, no, not so fast. We'll see why this story exists, and I want to cover it because it was broadly discussed within the XRP community on social media. This is broadly seen. But then also there's an attorney within the XRP community who shared his own personal theory, and he's somebody that's been opining on the matters of the SEC v. Ripple case for years now, and he's been a great source of knowledge in helping us to understand the various developments that have occurred throughout the last several years in the SEC v. Ripple case. And he has some thoughts as to what's probably going on and why we haven't seen the dismissal yet. So sit tight and we'll cover it all. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice. And you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. All right, so let's hop into this first piece. It reads as follows. Fox Business journalist Eleanor Terrett rejects speculation that the U.S. SEC recently discussed the imminent dismissal of its appeal against Ripple. On February 24th, the SEC Crypto Task Force met with legal experts to address issues relating to crypto regulation. Now, during this meeting, legal experts Jason Gottlieb, Andrew Hinks, and J.W. Verrett submitted a document analyzing certain crypto regulatory issues facing the SEC. The document highlighted the Ripple case to analyze how the commission had alleged that certain cryptos are securities without judicial confirmation that the tokens are securities themselves or used as part of investment contracts. Notably, it emphasized that courts have not universally accepted the SEC's position on crypto-related secondary market transactions, as observed in the Ripple lawsuit. And so here's a quote from that actual document. It reads as follows. Indeed, when the SEC's theory was tested in the Ripple case, Judge Torres found that transactions do not constitute investment contracts because the purchasers could not ascertain whether their payment went to Ripple or other XRP sellers, end quote. And of course, that idea was a core piece of the argument that all of us in the XRP community have spent like the last several years making here. How can you say that we're in some sort of agreement, so any arrangement of any kind with Ripple? How could it be an investment contract if we don't? Well, first of all, we don't have a contract with them, but even setting that aside, how could there be any sort of requirements for Ripple to do anything for us if we bought XRP and we don't know if it is or is not from Ripple? That just doesn't make logical sense. And that's a no-brainer concept right there. And so that's what that concept is what they're highlighting right there. But still, there were things discussed within the XRP community, so let's proceed. With the document highlighting the Ripple case, some XRP community members speculated that the SEC's Crypto Task Force met with lawyers to discuss the potential dismissal of the multi-year lawsuit. Responding, Terrett refuted the speculation with an emphatic no. This indicates that the rumor about the SEC considering dropping the Ripple case is false. The Fox Business journalist attached a facepalm emoji to her response, indicating her frustration with the rumor, which she finds baseless. And so this is what was discussed in the article right here. Now, this was seen, this post, which again reads, Trump's crypto task force met with lawyers this week to discuss dismissing Ripple v. SEC case. That was seen 561,000 times. Now, if you go through the document, yes, Ripple was highlighted, as was mentioned in that article from the Crypto Basic, but it didn't say anything. It didn't say anything else about discussing the dismissal of the Ripple v. SEC, the appeal process. It said nothing about that. And so Eleanor Terrett read that, and she was obviously very frustrated with that, which I say is fair. And she wrote no, again, like they cited, with that little facepalm emoji. And I really wish that people wouldn't do stuff like this. We just don't need this in the community. We really don't. Like if it blatantly said that they were doing that, yeah, please share that. I'd be excited. I'd be screaming it on the channel and make a video and crediting you. But if you're going to say that's what's happening, but then you go through the document and then there's just a reference to a quote from the SEC v. Ripple case, that's not the same thing. That's definitely not the same thing. I just want to live in reality, And if it's an accident, it's an accident. Fine, then acknowledge that. But it doesn't seem like that. Somebody else shared a post that was deleted, so I don't know what this one was because I didn't see it before it was deleted. But Eleanor Terrett responded to this. This is just yesterday morning. She said, "No, I actually just do the work and talk to the people involved. There was no discussion about any individual open case in that meeting." And so she literally talked to people that were involved in this. She got the feedback to them because she's an actual journalist and she does a great job, honestly. She really does. And they're like, no, we weren't talking about the specifics of any case. Which, by the way, makes sense. It's a crypto task force. It wouldn't, whatever. And then there was this, though. So what actually is going on? And so there's this post from Meta Lawman. This is attorney James Murphy. And he has a theory. And I think it makes a lot of sense. Here's what he had to say. I have a theory about the SEC's unexplained delay in dismissing the Ripple case. It might not be the SEC. It could be that Ripple is negotiating hard to get the SEC to agree to vacate some or all of Judge Torres' decision. The Torres decision was unquestionably great for XRP holders, but the, A, finding of securities law violations and the B, injunction with attendant bad boy provisions are not so great for Ripple. This is particularly true if Ripple is considering a future exempt securities offering or IPO. I believe the SEC would have accepted a settlement where both sides dismiss their appeals and the SEC takes the $125 million penalty in a heartbeat. So it makes sense, to me at least, that Ripple could be negotiating for a better deal than that. This is all pure speculation on my part. I could be wrong. Wouldn't be the first time. I think that's perfectly reasonable speculation. We don't know. But given that the SEC was ready to throw everything else out, why isn't it the case that the whole Ripple situation's tied up in a bow? Well, couple things then. Like I said at the outset of the video, it could be that it's just purely because there are additional complexities because of the nature of the actual settlement. What does that mean for the penalties, this or that? But it's also possible that even if, because Trump decreed, hey, the war on crypto is over, end all of this, even if the SEC is trying to do that, now Ripple could be like, well, we got them by the balls. And so they could seriously just be pushing back and being like, well, okay, we know that this is what the SEC wants now, but what about what Ripple wants? And so what if it is indeed the case that Ripple's trying to negotiate some of this down? Which is an excellent question. And so there was this add-on, by the way, also from attorney James Murphy. He wrote, note, it is far from a sure thing that a federal judge would agree to vacate a prior ruling as part of a settlement. This was fairly commonplace several years ago when I started in the law business, but judges started balking at this in more recent times. So even if the SEC were wanting to get rid of the appeal, and what if in order to have Ripple get rid of their appeal, there had to be some sort of agreement to vacate some or all of Judge Torres' decision? Is she going to be okay with that? What does that mean about what she decreed? And that's a question mark. Don't know exactly what that looks like, but it's certainly possible that behind the scenes, Ripple is kind of, being firm here, like not letting the SEC leave. Like that makes sense because Ripple's in the more beneficial position, obviously, in my mind anyway. Attorney John Deaton reposted what I just shared with you, and he simply wrote solid theory, so he clearly thinks that makes sense as well. There is this post from attorney Bill Morgan of the XRP community. He also reposted this, and he said, "This is complicated as permanent injunctions are sometimes made to protect the public and sometimes just the party seeking the injunction. This injunction against Ripple is the former, so wouldn't Ripple, even with the SEC's consent, need to file a motion to set it aside on the ground that there has been a change in circumstances?" And what attorney Murphy said to that is, yes, a motion would be required, and there may be some risk that Judge Torres would decline to vacate her prior order. And then he shared a link to something that's kind of a primer of understanding that concept, which for the purpose of the video, it's too far in the weeds. But yeah, there is that risk that Judge Torres would just be like, no. So, but still, so you still think like, okay, worst case scenario, what's this mean for Ripple? You pay the fine then? Probably. I mean, certainly it's not like the SEC under Trump is going to continue pursuing this. Like there's no desire there, obviously. There's also this question from somebody in the XRP community named CB Silverbullet. He said, quick question, if the SEC drops the Ripple case, does the ruling that Judge Torres made about XRP not being a security still stand? Or does that go away because the case never finished? And Attorney Hogan responded to that, and he said, that part of the ruling wasn't even appealed, so XRP will remain not a security forever and no matter what. And so if you were wondering that, if you were worried, okay, what would that mean for XRP itself? Doesn't change. It doesn't change. So we'll see what happens here, but I'm still optimistic that this is going to conclude, and maybe we'll get a cool headline about how Ripple kind of, put the screws to the SEC and maybe got a sweetheart deal compared to what compared to how things ultimately concluded here. That would be nice for them. But the good news, the key takeaway for any XRP holder is we're fine regardless, just to be clear. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.